since I was a kid.
Oh yeah,
I was big league dream.
I was big league dream.
For as long as I live,
Always.
I'm big league dreaming.
I never got to bat in the major leagues. I'd have liked to have that chance, just once. To stare down a big league pitcher. Make him think you know something he doesn't. Chance to squint at a sky so blue that it hurts your eyes just to look at. To feel the tingle in your arm as you connect with the ball. To run the bases, stretch a double into a triple, and flop face first. Wrap your arms around the bag. That's my wish, Rick and Silla.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Big League Dreaming, the podcast. Today we have a special guest. His name is Mike McDonald, who is a professional baseball coach. He's been through the ranks. He's coached college. He's coached professional. And recently he's been in the Mexican League coaching with the Tijuana Toros. So today it's myself, Zach Gonzalez, the oldest of the three boys. Joining me is my dad, John Gonzo. So we're really excited to have Mike on the podcast tonight. Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing well. Thanks again for hopping on. Really excited to ask you a few questions. We appreciate you talking to us tonight. I guess my first question I want to ask is the Tijuana Toros. Tell us a little bit about the Mexican League, what that is. I bet a lot of our listeners don't even know what that is. And then for many of our listeners who probably don't know, tell us how your season went this year.
Oh, man, Mexico's different, but the season went great. We had our ups and downs, like any team does in a season. But to come back, put it all together, and win the Mexican League championship was something truly amazing, and I'll never forget it. Mexico is it's called Liga Mexicana de Béisbol. It's essentially Mexico's major leagues. I would say similar to like the Japanese league, how that's their major leagues. And then there's we call it the Grandes. The Grande League is Major League Baseball in America. So, I would say it's the equivalent of like AAA in the States. We're getting guys that there's some guys in the league that got a lot of big league time. And there's guys showing up. They're getting DFA'd by the big leagues, and they don't want to go to AAA, so they come down to Mexico and play. That happened with a few guys this year. Oliver Perez started with the Indians this year in the bullpen. They DFA'd him, and he was in Mexico a couple days later. So pitching for us in Tijuana, and he was really good for us and helped us win a championship.
I would think that winning a championship in any division, whether it's high A, single A, double A, triple A, or the Mexican League or the Japanese League, it's quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to you and the team. I understand that it went 7 games, and were you down 3-0?
We were down 3-0. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that like to come back?
I'll tell you what, we got to the field for game 4, and I don't want to say it was like fake energy, but you could tell guys hey, we're going to win today. And it's you're trying to just be as positive as possible. And I'm and it's raining, and it rains a lot in Yucatan where we were. And I was we need this game to be rained out, and we need to come back tomorrow. We need a day, because the day off was a travel day, and it's not a day off. You're flying all the way across the country. So we're flying, 5 hours in the air, not to mention the layovers. So I was we just need a day to get back to the hotel, relax, regroup. And we did. We got it. We got rained out. And I looked at our pitching coach, and I was this is exactly what we need. And he was I agree. We needed this day off. And we just went on a run. And I think that fake energy of people trying to be positive, it felt more real the next day when we played game 4. I think everybody actually believed it, and they weren't trying to convince themselves that we were going to do it, And it just took off, man. I think everybody had the feeling we needed that one day to recharge. And we're going to do it. And we did. And don't get me wrong, game five was scary. You know, we were winning the whole game, and then we made an error that let them score in the 9th to tie it up. But we won it in the 11th, and that I was like, yep, we're winning it. No doubt about it. Went home to Tijuana. Just, you know, they weren't in game 6 or 7 at all. And I think we just knew when we showed up to the ballpark, like, this is ours to lose now at that point, you know. So.
We were talking to Mike McDonald. He is one of the coaches for the Tijuana Toros in the Mexican Baseball League, the LMB, right? Or LBM, what is it? Liga? The Liga there.
Liga Mexican.
LMB, it really is. And congratulations again. So we have a lot to cover here on Big League Dreaming, the podcast, because, you know, you're our first guest from the Mexican League that's coached the Mexican League. And I'm sure you have a story on how you got here. Zach knows you. You guys know each other from what? Coastal or from Myrtle? Or
Yeah.
how did you guys first meet, Zach?
So it was
a little bit
Coastal.
of both, man. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Zach. Tell it.
Yeah, it was through Coastal. I was working for the Myrtle Beach Pelicans, and I was looking for what I wanted to do next after that kind of 1 year assistant, kind of like an internship deal is what I had going on. I was looking for just reaching out to baseball people in the area to see what was out there. And I got in touch with Mike, who was scouting for the Blue Jays at the time. And then we just kind of kept in touch, and I ended up coaching D3 ball in Grand Rapids, and went down to, I believe, Nashville for the convention and ran into him there. We reconnected there. And we've just been staying in touch through the different schools that he's coached at. So it's always good to keep contacts and keep up with people, because that's the name of the game, right? Especially in baseball, such a tight fraternity. If you want to move forward and move up, you need to network and know people.
Absolutely. Yeah, the more people you know certainly helps, for sure.
So with that being said, Mike, tell us a little bit about the different schools you've been at, different programs you've helped coach professionally, collegiately. Tell us a little bit about like where you started out and how you got to Mexico.
Yeah, you got it. So I guess in the beginning, it was I was working for the Myrtle Beach Pelicans doing promotions when I was in high school, and maybe I think it was like my first year of college, second year of college, and I was talking to a baseball scout. Like, I played baseball in high school, and I, you know, probably could have played in college. I had an opportunity to walk on, and I just said no. I was just not going to do it. I was done. And then I met this guy who's a scout, and he was just telling me about how he watched baseball players just evaluate. I'm like, you do that for a living? I'm like, that seems great. Like, you just go to baseball players, you project them, and, you know, see if they're going to be big leaguers. I was like, I want to do that. I feel like I could do that. Met some people with the Braves while I was working for the Pelicans, and they needed somebody in Myrtle Beach to do like video and just help out with stuff. So I was like, yeah, that's right up my alley. I can do that. So I did that for a few years while in school. And then after school, got into a company called Baseball Info Solutions, which is now Sports Info Solutions. And they do a lot of like, it was like the big sabermetrics push when I was there. Like, we're starting to dip into it. So did that, got an internship with the Blue Jays doing like pro scouting, player development, combined type thing. Worked for Diamond Prospects, helped cover South Carolina, finding high school players, you know, coaching, doing all that. And from there, I was doing that for a few years, and I went to work in coastal Carolina. But so I got out of baseball, didn't want to do it, worked in coastal Carolina's athletic department for a little bit, really started to miss it, applied for a few director of operations positions, took one at Santa Clara University, moved all the way across the country. 2015 and 16 was there. About a month after the College World Series, after Coastal Carolina had won it, they had an opening on their baseball staff, and they called me. They're like, hey, you're going to do like video, advanced scouting, help with camps, on-campus recruiting, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get to come home. Absolutely, I'll do it. You just won the national championship. I'd be an idiot to say no. And it had been a dream to work at Coastal Baseball. I've been going to Coastal Baseball games since I was, a little kid. So did that, was there, kind of realized that we ended up getting a track man while I was there. So I dove down the rabbit hole of analytics and how you use that to win games. I think Coastal liked it. They weren't like 100% in on it. And just kind of when it was time for it to be like, hey, I need more money to stay here, they were just kind of like, listen, hey, I don't think this position's really going to be much more than what it is. I don't think administration really wants to put money into the position. Feel free to start looking elsewhere. Yeah, not the answer I wanted, but hey, like, I appreciated the honesty, I was like, yeah, absolutely. And Coach Gilmore was great. And he was just like, you need any help, you need me to call anybody, let me know. I'll help you out. So I kind of wanted to do it on my own though. I don't really like to rely on other people for help. So I did a lot of my own. I probably heard from about 16 of the major league teams about some sort of interest level. And at the end of it, St. Louis showed the most interest, and they offered me a job as their fourth coach in AAA with the Memphis Redbirds, where I did like pro scouting, and I was the assistant hitting coach. Was pretty much the roles of it. They made a move in the middle, or it was towards the end of our minor league season. It was beginning of August. They fired the assistant hitting coach in the big leagues with St. Louis. Our hitting coach went up to the big leagues. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, I figured I was going to be the hitting coach for like a day, and then they would fly in like, somebody to finish up the rest of the season. And I guess they asked some people what they thought about just letting me be the hitting coach for the rest of the year. And every one of them was like, yeah, we want to see what Mike can do. Like, let him just take over. So I was pretty shocked by that because, a couple months before, I'm helping cut up video and doing TrackMan reports in Division I college baseball. And then they're just handing me, obviously it wasn't like the keys to the kingdom or anything, but it was pretty cool for me to be doing that and then be like, hey, like, you're the hitting coach now in AAA for the rest of the year. And I was like, okay, like, thank you, like it was, and we had an amazing run. We were top 3 in every offensive category in our division before that. And then we absolutely raked in August, and we ended up, I believe, first or second in every offensive category in our division in the PCL that year. So,
hey, Mike, who were some of your top hitters then? I think that's an incredible move on your part to get that.
Yeah. So we had Adolis Garcia, Randy Rosarina, Dylan Carlson, Justin Williams, Lane Thomas. Tyler O'Neill was down for a little bit. Harrison Bader came down for a little bit. John Nagowski, who was in the big leagues for a little bit this year, Edmundo Sosa, Ramon Urias, Andrew Kisner. Like, all those guys are in the big leagues or, have spent time in the big leagues this year, last year, and gotten some, some good playing time. So I was extremely fortunate to have a very good lineup. But they were also really good people. And when I went to them with information, they used it. They used it to get better. And they were really receptive to that. Now, you got to pick and choose the information you give them, and you got to make it easy for them. But I think if you know your players, you know how they'll respond to it, and they responded to it amazingly. Just they did a great job, and we went on a run, and we were 4 games out of a playoff spot, and we had to win the division. And we went into a 4-game series with Iowa. We won game 1, so we're 3 games out. And then we get a phone call from the front office, and they were like, hey, this is a list of guys that's coming up after September 1st. So they were like, you can't play these guys. And it was like September, it was like August 31st. So I was like, we're sitting there with all these guys like, oh man. And then we lost 3 straight and we were out of it. But it was an amazing run. We won like 16 out of 17 games or something like that to get back into the playoff push. And the offense did a phenomenal job as well did the pitchers. the pitchers really stepped it up too. It was an amazing run also.
What happened after that? What happened? What happened to you next?
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you. The volume's kind of low. I've tried turning it up.
No problem. So what after St. Louis and AAA, what happened next?
So from there, I get a call after the season. I was on a 1-year contract, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna keep you on. We got a couple of hitting jobs opening up. Like, you're gonna be the hitting coach at a level. You're not gonna be like the fourth coach in AAA." So I'm like, "Okay, hey, that's great," because that's what they wanted me to do, and I kind of told them I had an interest in doing that. So, they're like, "Just so you know, that we're hiring a new hitting coordinator, and it's really going to ultimately be up to him, but we're going to tell him that we strongly want you to come back." So I was like, "Hey, yeah, absolutely, I get it." Is what it is. Guy wanted to bring his own people. I understand. So the Cardinals, they reached out to some people, and had some people reach out to them, and one of them just happened to be Tijuana. They were like, "We need a hitting coach with AAA experience," and he's like, "Do you want to go to Tijuana?" And I was like, in my head, I knew it was the equivalent of AAA, so I was like, I'm going to be working with some guys that got some big league time that I can learn a lot from, and and work with the guys that are higher up, so I know what it's like, because I think ultimately everybody wants to be in the big leagues, right? Like, I want to get to the big leagues. So I figured, all right, well, this is Mexico's big leagues. It's AAA. I can go there, hopefully do really good and just see what happens. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. So after that, later that week, I was on a flight out to San Diego. Omar Vizquel was the manager. They made me go to his press conference, and the interview was after his press conference. So did the interview. I was in there forever, it seemed like. And then about 30 minutes after the interview, they offered me the job. We started negotiating. I don't hear from them for like a week. I'm like, what is going on? Well, then they called me, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to hire Howard Johnson to be the hitting coach." And I'm like, I get that. Like, I understand. Like, Hojo was my favorite player growing up for a little bit. He's got a ton of experience. And I was like, all right, well, so I was like, all right, well, so what's going on then? And they're like, "We're going to create this role for you because you're the only one that knows how to do any sort of analytics, and we want to get into the analytics and sabermetrics area. We want you to handle that type of role." And they're like, I was like, yeah, all right. So we negotiated on that. We came to a number, and I was like, all right, I'm in. And that's how I got there, 1 week of spring training in 2020, and then COVID. And then this year, we got the ball rolling. Shortened season, but it was great, man. It's a lot of fun. When you get to coach good players and watch how good they can really be, it's a lot of fun to watch guys like that.
And I'm sure learning, picking up some Spanish while you're down there
Un poquito.
It's really good for the resume, right? Especially the culture of Major League Baseball going forward.
Yeah, it was. I learned a little bit, and honestly, I downloaded Duolingo because I heard really good things about that app. So I was doing that every day for a couple weeks, and it was getting better. And then I really started hitting hard on the certifications that I had signed up for, and kind of put the Duo on the back burner. So my Spanish could have been better, and I'm, nobody blamed but myself for that. But it is a goal of mine to get to the point where I can talk and not have to worry about it. I was never fluent, but back in like 2010, 2011, I could conversate just fine. Like, I could have been in Mexico and do all right on my own. But 10 years ago now, 11 years ago. So, I needed to do a little more for sure.
Hey, Mike, I took a look at the roster for the Tijuana Toros, and tell me a little bit about the makeup, because it looked like a little bit of everything. Some older players, younger players, players who were drafted, players who, have, cups of coffee in the major leagues here and there. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. It is weird how they find players. So, but they do a really good job of looking for guys with Mexican backgrounds. So if you have a Mexican background, like a family member that's Mexican, people are willing to like bring you into spring training and try you out and see how you are. So we had a guy, he was on and off the roster. He never really got official at bat, but he'd help with the bullpen, whatever we needed. His name was Charlie Padilla. He's from Atlanta, went to USC Aiken, played a little bit of indie ball, but one of his parents is of Mexican descent. So boom, hey, we get him in here. He came down, and he was probably going to be our third catcher. He was going to be our third catcher, but then one of our starters. We have two catchers that are very good, so they split time. So it's hard to say one's the starter and one's not because they play it an even amount. So Charlie was looking at being like the third string catcher. And then we had another catcher, Alberto Carrillo, who he would play everywhere. He was probably our third string catcher, but he could play outfield, he could play infield, and Charlie was kind of just filling that role of like helping out. But I mean, he went to USC Aiken, played a little bit of indie ball, but because he was like of Mexican descent, they're like, yeah, we're gonna try you out. Come on, like it was anybody. It was weird to see. They were just pretty much, and they've talked to me about doing some winter league stuff, and then trying to find some guys in the States that just have Mexican backgrounds so that we can have like a database. And then what they'll do is you can sign their rights. You get their rights. So you'll pay them like, hey, listen, we're going to give you like a couple $1,000 so we own your rights. So if you get good, we have your rights. You come to Mexico. And that's just a one-time payment. Like here's a couple $1,000 for your rights. Oh, you're doing really good. Come to Tijuana. If you do good, and then they negotiate a salary if they make the team and stuff like that. So it's a lot different, obviously, than the States where you draft a guy, develop a guy. You're constantly looking for players. And if they're good, you give them some money. And I think some of the good ones, like the good ones that are, developing right now in the States, they'll pay. I've heard, and I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I've heard they're paying upwards of $50,000 just for their rights. So, it is what it is, big business, and they want to win. So it's kind of how it is down there. It's a little different.
Well, Zach, give a good chance to get back into baseball. You can be a pitcher down there.
There you go.
I mean, if you need a lefty with a good pickoff move, I'm your guy.
I'll send that up the chain.
All right, good stuff. I did want to ask you about the analytics question. What are some of the little specific things you track to help make the team better?
So with this is kind of where in Mexico, this is probably me mostly. When we say analytics, I think TrackMan, pitch metrics, hitting metrics, all that stuff. To me, that's analytics. And sabermetrics is the stat stuff, right? And that's just kind of how I look at it. Now I think analytics probably means all encompassing, but for what we had down there, we got a flight scope. It did not work. We got a new flight scope. It did not work. So we had to base stuff solely off of like our true media that we got, which was spray charts, and they do a really good job of breaking up every sort of statistic you can get. So when I talk about doing analytics with guys, I would like to get more of like heat map stuff, pitch metric stuff, and we just didn't have a lot of that just because we use Baseball Cloud, and they were ingesting our stuff from bats. Yeah. So whatever we were putting into bats, it was translating over to Baseball Cloud, so I could use that a little bit, but it wasn't like analytics, if that makes sense. Like it was. But it wasn't truly like, all right, this is what TrackMan's saying. This is what we got. This is where we're going. This is where you need to stop swinging at pitches and stuff like that. Like if I wanted to do stuff like that, I had to go to a lot of video. But a lot of the stat stuff that I used, I would try and do a lot of like lineup projections and stuff like that. Like how can we score more runs? And I would use, like weighted on base, OPS. I'm not a huge fan of right versus left, but sometimes they're just such different they're so drastic, the splits, that sometimes you do have to pay attention to it. I don't think you have to pay attention to it every time, but there's a certain amount of times where you have to. So that's really what I used a lot of my like sabermetrics and analytics work to do. And just kind of using video too, man, because video is really the main thing that you have that you can show them. But a lot of these guys, they've never had a video system before. So they just, I don't know how they get it. They get their at-bats somehow off the internet. And I wasn't sure because I was just using the video system, but you could sit down and you could show these guys like, hey, like, look, release points, lower half, stuff like that. It's a little old school, but the good news is, at least in Tijuana, we're trending up. We've already got a contract for TrackMan that's getting signed, hopefully this week, and we'll be up and running before spring training. And just getting that stuff together is really going to help show these guys where just because you've done it this way your whole life doesn't make it right. I've got guys that want to swing down and create like backspin. I'm like, you don't create backspin by swinging down. Like you do it like this. And then it's hard to show them the hitters that because we don't have their launch angle, right? And we don't have what they're – and, people say batting average is a dead stat. It's not. It's not a dead stat. Players will and always will want to look at their batting average, and that's what I've noticed. So you can't completely cut it out. So I need to be like, listen, when your angle is like this is your batting average. Now me, I'm not always necessarily looking at the batting average. I'm probably looking at like slugging, weighted on base. But I do look at the average too because you have to. You have to look at it. You can't just say, hey, listen, dude, let's get your WOBA here. A lot of people don't know what that is. So you do have to translate it in forms where they can understand it. And I think video with the numbers is the best way to do it. And it was hard to do that this year, but we made it work a little bit with the help of Baseball Cloud and the Bats video system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the TrackMan is going to be a game changer too because I did the TrackMan all season this year with the Charlotte Knights for the White Sox. And I remember day one when they told me that I don't need to select the pitch type anymore. It just auto generates it off of the data that pops in. I was like, man, this just made my life way easier because I'm sitting here like slider or curveball, like what we got here. So yeah, that'll be definitely a game changer for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I had a bunch of conversations with those guys, and honestly, we had a deal to get it in for the playoffs, and everybody was excited. We were like, hey, we're gonna have this. The owner was like, yeah, we're gonna get it done, and I think what it came down to was the contract was gonna get signed late, and they weren't confident that it was gonna be ready. Like we were gonna get the ESPN games in Mexico because that was like the talk. Like we're gonna get all the games now because we have this data, and we can use the graphics. But it didn't work out, and I know they're working on it now. We had to do an updated contract since it wasn't going to be in time for the playoffs, and I know management has that, and they're hammering all that now. So, hopefully within the next couple weeks that'll be done and be getting installed. Because and I told them like once this is installed, like we don't just get it and use it during the season. Like we don't use it during spring training this season. That's not it. Like. We need to start developing our plans with our younger guys that work out there in the offseason. We still have some prospects that work out in Tijuana. This is the baseline. This is where we start, and this is how we develop it. And I believe they're on board. Pretty much they're like, dude, we have to win the championship if we want to get anything. It's like that there. If we don't win the championship, we're probably not getting anything. But we won the championship, so now it's like, okay, we can start going forward with our projects that we want to do and hopefully get them approved. So that's all, that's what I'm hoping for. And I think everybody knows, like, okay, this is how we have to do it now. We have to change how we do things a little bit for this to work. So I'm interested to see how it happens,
Like this podcast is called Big League Dreaming, and obviously you're living your dreams there in Tijuana, Mexico. What advice do you have for people, young people that want to get in the business like yourself, right? What advice do you have for them?
It can be done because I've done it. So don't get me wrong. When there were times that I didn't think it was going to happen, especially not playing pro baseball or even in college. But it can be done. You got to humble yourself and do things you're probably not going to want to do, and it's not going to be a lot of money, when you first get going. I know I was bartending and part-time scouting, and I bartended because it was easier for me to get off of work so that I'd go watch a baseball game if they needed me to go watch a baseball game. Don't think you're smarter than other people because you're not. I know you think you know everything because you're young and you're a forward thinker. There's a lot of smart people at every level of baseball. Some people, Division I or bust college job for me. There's some really good Division II, Division III, NAIA coaches that work their butts off to be really smart. And I don't know what their dream destination. Maybe they want to coach an NAIA or Division III the rest of their life. But they work really hard and they study the game, and you can learn anywhere you go. And if there's somewhere where you are and you're not learning and you find yourself disagreeing a lot, like, it's okay to go somewhere else, try something different. I didn't always agree with everything we did everywhere, so I think a good thing is to find coaches that are open-minded and will listen to you and what you have to say, and not coaches that are like, that's not how we do it here. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we should start. No, that's not how it's done. Be open-minded. Don't be closed-minded. Take advice. Listen more than you speak. And then once you get to a point where you're good to go, it's okay to voice your opinion and have it. But make sure you know the subject you're talking about, because if you don't, there's a good chance that other coach does. But that would be it. Just learn as much as you can from anybody. One of the things I really like to do when I first got started was, if I saw a scout that had been around for a while, I wanted to talk to him because I wanted to know what he thought. And it was nice because being an A-ball, they'd be like, oh, this guy reminds me of such and such big leaguer. I'm like, oh man, okay, that guy, saw that guy play in the minors. That's pretty cool. Yeah, he reminds me of him when he was at this age. I'm like, okay. And you just start building a database in your head of players. Watch a lot of players, talk to people, and now it's like, oh, that guy's old. I hear that, that guy's old. I'm like, yeah, he's old. He's got a lot of knowledge. You can't just get rid of these people and their knowledge because they're old. Yes, we do things a little differently now, but somebody with that kind of knowledge that's seen so much baseball can always offer something, and that's kind of the way I looked at it. So I just like to talk to people. I like to listen, and I like to form my own opinions. And then when I saw that the things that I thought should happen started happening and started winning with that, I was like, okay, this is how it's supposed to be done.
Love that. Very well said, Coach. I think we can end on that. That's great.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully I made some sort of sense while I was talking, because I know I can ramble a little bit and get on a tangent. That's for sure.
No, it was really exciting. Very cool to have you on, and great to hear that your big league dreams is to make it to the big leagues one day, right? And in any capacity, I'm sure, whether that's on the analytics side or in the dugout as a coach, assistant coach, manager, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. That's what this podcast is all about, hearing people's stories and their goals on where they want to be. So thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. We do appreciate it. All right, Zach.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, take care. Well, Zach, that was really cool. I mean, great guest. Love his perspective and love that he was just in the Mexican League, right? And trying to live his big league dreams there. It's cool. Cool story.
Yeah, I mean, they just won Game 7 of their World Series a few days ago. So he's fresh coming. He just got back to the States a couple of days ago. And So he's very fresh, coming right off of that big win. So very, very good timing for that. That's great.
Very good timing, yes. All right, folks, well, keep following us here on Big League Dream, the podcast. We've got a lot of things coming up, right, Zach?
Yes, got a few more guests on the way. Got a beat writer from the minor leagues coming up on our next episode. I can't believe tonight was our 20th interview, our 20th episode, really, Dad. I mean, we just kind of started this something fun to do, and it's kind of picked up a little bit of steam here. So it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I have too. And, we have the World Series right around the corner and the playoffs and a lot of fun stuff happening at the major league level. I think AAA is still going on, right, in the minor leagues. Most other teams are done now, right, or they're going to their playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of teams are already done. The regular season finished up. The one side of AAA is doing, they call it the final stretch, where they're doing like one more week of games that starts today, tomorrow, and they'll play through. They'll play this week and then next week as well. They do like a little fun thing to who can have the most wins in these kind of extra 2 weeks that they put together, really to keep guys fresh for the playoffs coming up here and the postseason and the World Series and all that. So more baseball, September minor league baseball. We've never seen it before. So I'm all about it.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in, folks. Don't forget to follow us on all the social media channels and emailing us if you have a story idea or a guest you want us to have on the show, bigleaguedreaming@gmail.com. All right, Ty, where can people get more information about the show?
Hey, it's Ty from Big League Dreaming Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter @BLDpod. That is @BLDPOD. And we're also on TikTok now as well, so give us a follow @Big League Dreaming. We'd love to connect with you.